I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is K-Dot. K-Dot, how are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Drinking my Mountain Dew Code Red like a goddamn incel. And yeah.
Perfect. I'm drinking my water right here. And that's probably one of the more interesting things we're going to talk about today, because there really isn't that much news when it comes to the Commanders. Yes, there's a potential sale. They've thrown some names out. They've done the same thing with the offensive coordinator position. So in an effort to not water down this product and just put out bullshit, to be honest, what we've decided to do is just jump into the comment mailbag from the last episode. And then we've written down some topics that we have not shared with each other yet. And we're just going to talk about it on After the Pod. And that's going to be the show. So we're going to go ahead and just jump into the comment mailbag. And if you enjoyed today's episode for whatever reason, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please share all that jazz. Click the little bell to get the notifications, because you will sometimes get an episode like this. Fantastic. K-Dot, are you ready for this comment mailbag?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Beginning with Earl. Bruce, we have 3 different comments. Appreciate you, Earl. Due to the ownership situation, the Commanders will be in limbo next year. If they don't make the playoffs, the coaching staff will be gone. New ownership will have to find the right GM and coach, and then the right quarterback. At first, they will take their lumps, but things could be drastically better in 2026. This past season was indeed underwhelming. What are your thoughts more specifically, K-Dot, on 2026 being the time things could be drastically better?
I actually, it kind of makes sense. Like maybe
Does,
if you follow like the Ron Rivera after year 3 things, are, like there's a certain limit with that where you're looking at, all right, the age of certain players, and when the ownership change happens, and if they get the right guy, or maybe Ron Rivera has a miraculous year next year. Yeah, I'd say 2026. Hopefully, that should be the stench of Yacht Bitch finally leaving us, and we having a clean slate going into like a following season where a new stadium is announced, and maybe we're looking at a new build or something very quickly around the corner. That should be 2026 should be hopeful.
I'm very curious to see how spiritually we awaken as a franchise after Yacht Bitch ends up selling the team.
We won't.
You don't think so?
No, this fan base is, as I've said in the past,
we're going to get a lot of fans that were fans of the team coming back in. Keep that in mind too.
Yeah, a lot of races. So there's going to be a lot of Commanders fans have been abused. We are a bunch of abuse victims, and that carries its own sort of reaction to trauma. And it's going to take more than just him leaving. Look, I'm willing to admit, I think I'm speaking to with you here on the screen with me, and lots of you watching that still don't believe Snyder's leaving. In your heart, you don't. You can't trust it.
It is scary to trust. I will be honest. I know.
But
everyone is telling you it's the fall exercise where they're like, just lean back and we'll catch you. And they're promising you they will catch you. And every one of their mothers saying you will be caught, and you just for whatever reason cannot lean back and trust. And so no, you're totally right about that.
Yeah, I've gone to enough therapy. I've found love again. You can do that. You can.
It is allowed.
It's allowed.
Yeah,
you should.
All right. Well, I'm very much looking forward to After the Pod, but we have 2 more comments over here. This is from Vindo. It's capital V, lowercase I, capital N, lowercase D, capital O, and then H. So not window, but Vindo. Like that. Shout out Vindo. Appreciate it. We need to focus on the line we upgraded, the D line, and saw how well the defense has developed. I just feel the O line, especially left tackle, has not been the same since Trent Williams left and went to the 49ers. Besides that, need a faster tight end like we used to have with Jordan Reed, who can line up in the slot, etc. for the draft. I would love an O-line pick, but wouldn't be mad with Porter. This is a cornerback from Penn State to help with the secondary. I don't think the QB situation should be settled until after Snyder is gone. His stench has left a stain in this franchise since the creation of the internet. Well, I like the end of that. Really appreciate the comment over there, Vindo. Looking at it, he's 100% right, or she is 100% right about the left tackle position not being solidified since Trent Williams left. I mean, Trent Williams is one of the greatest left tackles ever, let alone in our own franchise's history. So, yeah, I would agree with that. And I would love to also pick an O lineman and start shoring that up. I don't want the quarterback thing to be settled so long as Ron's here. Go ahead.
We had Trent Williams. Before Trent Williams, we had Chris Samuels.
Yeah.
How many Super Bowls? How many playoff appearances?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So I'm just saying, at the end of the day, like it's true. When you're missing Hall of Fame level talent at left tackle, things are different. That's a given. But at the end of the day, the way I look at it, we've wasted a ton of time with two guys that are Hall of Fame level.
Though, just to be fair.
Yeah, Joe Thomas and
Joe Thomas was the very
Cleveland.
First name that came to mind.
There are quite a few guys that end up doing that. Until nowadays at the end, they can kind of bounce around, find a spot they can go to, and go ahead and win some. Look, you always want a Hall of Famer left tackle. It's a rarity. That's one of those things that you actually look back at this franchise and say, over the last 2 decades, that's the one thing we kind of got right compared to other franchises. You just wish you had a quarterback to couple it with. Quarterback and coach to couple it with.
I think that becomes natural to just take it for granted, right? Where you go, oh, the left tackle position's always fine. It doesn't even matter who we put in there. It's just going to work because
it's hard.
It is so hard. I mean, heck, there were even moments where Ty and Secchi would come in when Trent was hurt, and Ty and Secchi would play really well, for example. So, like, we were just always used to this left tackle being fantastic, and that wasn't the case this season, unfortunately.
He's playing in Jacksonville now. Yeah?
Is he?
Thought I saw him on Sunday.
Okay.
Or Saturday.
Saturday night. Yeah. Which I'm sure we'll talk about that. And then the final comment, Blood Clot, appreciate you. You said Scott Turner should have been in the room when they picked Carson Wentz. Although I 100% agree, I don't think Scott even cares. The one complaint I hear about Scott is that he has a playbook and doesn't deviate from it for anyone. He doesn't conform to any player's strength. You just do it whether you like it or not. I guess it doesn't matter now that he's gone, but how frustrating is it for him if he thought Sam Howell was his golden boy in that last game only to get fired the next day? I recently read one article where Chris Cooley, was laughing at the 2-to-1 run to pass ratio. You can't go into a game and be so stringent. If something isn't working, you have to change and adapt your game. Rivera is a statue at the sidelines that just works on time management and terribly. Other than that, he's just watching the game like any other fan. If he's not calling plays or making plays as a head coach, what is he doing? K-Dot, I will leave that to you to begin.
I agree with some of the sentiment as far as the Ron Rivera stuff being sort of a statutory thing. I was able to hear Logan Paulson talk about something when it came to Scott Turner and the
Logan Paulson.
Yeah,
is that who you'd said? Okay, just check.
Logan Paulson, former tight end for Washington. He does the show with Craig Hoffman that I try not to watch when we're doing breakdown as far as game film.
It's a good show.
It's a good show. Yeah, I just don't want to be stealing from them because I feel like it pollutes you if you watch that shit before you do it.
No, makes sense.
What he was talking about, the semblance that he gets is not necessarily that there are a lot of people that are it's not incompetence as far as the Washington coaching staff. It's more of they do not cultivate a place in which people can question other people's stuff or challenge other people in a healthy manner.
Sure.
Where it is that you have a situation where you got like Scott Turner, everybody, where I feel as though people kind of walk on eggshells, or I'm not going to overstep my bounds. If there's sort of a respect thing that happens that ends up being too kind and too nice, in which you're not getting the back and forth that you need to have happen in a successful NFL locker room. And you need coaches that put certain guys in position that they might not even love all the time, but somebody that will be not just a yes man. And I think when you look at like the Carson Wentz trade and everything, there is no chance, I think. Look, there's either one of two things that happened. Either Snyder got involved and made the Carson Wentz thing happen, which is what those papers said, or Ron Rivera is the one that was at the top of the board that decided to. I'm going to side with Ron because he's taken responsibility for it. And if that's the case, I don't think there's no well chance in hell he doesn't talk to Scott Turner, But what does that conversation look like? Like, is it just yeah, Ron, whatever you think, but
Yeah, no, it is tricky, and to Blood Clot's point, I mean, the guy is now gone, and we've also mentioned it numerous times on this show, which is that everyone has had come out and basically said Scott Turner runs a very specific scheme, and regardless of what you are good at, you have to run that scheme, and hopefully it just aligns properly. That is unfortunately true when former players talk about.
But that's the thing, is like, if Scott might not even be aware of it, as far as how rigid he is, if he doesn't have other guys, quarterbacks coaches, and other position coaches that say, Scott, that's not working.
This is where you get into the echo chamber and the loyalty that we speak about when it comes to Ron Rivera, for example.
It's a tenured coaching staff. There are some guys on that have been around the league. They've been lots of places. It just seems to me right now, no one, at least in that coaching staff the way it was, no one's in a position to feel as though they should be too outspoken.
Lot of buddy hires that tends to happen over here, right? Like, if you even think about Bruce Allen being friends with Jay Gruden, like, I remember putting a Facebook status out way back when. This was, I think, before Twitter. I was like, I think Jay Gruden's going to be the coach. And this was like 3 weeks before. I was like, because they just know each other. And they kept Jim Haslett. And Jim Haslett also has ties to there's been nothing but buddy hires over here. And that's why ownership changing is going to be really nice too.
But even with the Jay Gruden deal, remember, Bill Callahan was on that coaching staff there at the end.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a time in which, if Jay Wish wanted to do something on offense, the Bill Callahan wouldn't look to Jay square in his face and say, I'm not doing that. I'm not having the offensive line do that. We're not good at that, Jay. We're not doing that.
Right.
And that's the conversation happens when you have a guy like Bill Callahan there. There's no denying that. And Jay is willing to argue his points with other people.
So you're saying there are no healthy disagreements as far as you could tell happening with this coaching staff. It was a lot of passive agreement, or
which
maybe self-silencing, and that affected the on-field product. Maybe
we talk about this more on Friday, but there's another thing that nobody's having a conversation about. Jack Del Rio's not under contract. And he's the one guy on this staff that you would think, just knowing him, would be the guy who says either fuck this or fuck that. He doesn't seem like the kind of just. Right. But I will also say, because of the trouble that he was getting in off the field with some of his tweets and shit.
Yeah.
You've seen a very muted Jack Del Rio this season. And I don't know what that means as far as the relationship with him and Ron. I don't know what that means as far as the relationship between him and the rest of the staff. Mm-hmm. But it very much seems like we have one of the quietest regimes we have ever seen come through Washington.
Yes.
And it's a really weird. Point. It's sort of nice in the sense that there's no drama, but there needs to be a semblance of everybody knows what they're doing. And in the case of knowing what you're doing, you fight for what it is you think you know. And that's supposed to be what happens at any healthy company and any healthy team. You have to have those disagreements to get you to the point that you need to be. And I always thought Ron was a leader of men in that way, that he could do that, but it might have gone too far the other way, where now it's just everyone's quiet. No one wants to rattle any feathers, because they probably look around and be like, we're just lucky to be here that Ron decided to hire us. So we don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really excellent point there, K-Dot. I also just, when it comes to coaches, I just assume they all sort of will have a contract expire around the same time. So I didn't even think to look at Jack Del Rio's contract, and I hadn't even seen that anywhere, that he's out of contract right now. That's fascinating.
They re-signed. You remember they extended Turner.
I remember that.
Extend Jack. And now you have an off season where we're recording this on, what's the name? Tuesday?
Yeah, 17th.
Ron and Martin probably met with Dan yesterday. Dan probably gave him what the budget is for this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And shit might happen between now and when we're on Friday.
I don't even know how that conversation. You know what? Let's jump into after the pod. That's going to begin right now. So what does that conversation even look like? Would Dan being like, here's the budget, if he knows he's selling, for example?
It's, hey, I'm leaving.
Right.
It's my money until it's sold.
Correct.
You're not allowed to do this, or this.
Right.
Period. So this is the amount of money that I'm giving you until it sells.
Right.
This is all you can do with it. And then
Uh-huh.
when the new ownership comes, they'll tell you whatever that is they want to tell you. Ron.
Right. Okay, and that's fine, but I'm just sort of thinking, just thinking out loud over here, which is that, whoa, hold on. No, I don't like that. Which is just that this is the like little lamp light I have or whatever. I need to get the proper, gosh, what's the term? You have it. It's like that ring or whatever that does.
I don't use a ring light.
You don't use a ring light.
No, I use a bunch of key lights. So this is one of them.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I got another key light that's larger on the other side. I have a light behind me, behind the couch that
look at the level of
shines
effort you
up
put in. I love it.
yeah,
I
there's a
absolutely
light
love it.
behind me that shows, and you have to have the shit. I got the angle right. You got to have the angles different
Uh-huh.
and distance is different so that it's like cinematography.
This is a show after all. I'm gonna lean up a little bit, but I guess what I'm thinking about is, so Dan goes, I'm selling. Wouldn't he have a certain incentive to say, yeah, I understand how the typical structure is and stuff like that, and you need to hire people, but why don't you wait until I sell? Let's say it's definitely happening in March, right? There's no rule that
could
says
be
you
what happens.
need someone in place as a defensive coordinator by
Yeah,
March, right?
no,
So like,
but you have to. But here's the thing of it is that it's a competitive market, and especially so like
I
right
get
now,
that, but what if he doesn't care?
Dan doesn't have to care for himself, but he does have to care about the new ownership.
Fair enough.
You cannot. This is, you're about to sell the house. The house is about to be on the market. You can't go ahead and decide I'm going to start spray painting the walls before I leave without it under contract.
Fair
you still
enough.
have to continue to run the house, right?
So yeah, like, and what they could do is maybe backload. Like, I don't know how they could, but I'm sure, those lawyers get involved. I'm sure they could find a creative way so that it doesn't cost Dan nearly as much.
What Dan will do is tell them, hey, steady the ship. He's just going to tell them not to do anything stupid.
Yeah, or you know what? This is probably the easiest solution. So do whatever you're going to do. The new owners, you just reimburse me for this part. And they can do that, because that is some millions versus like, the billions that they'll ultimately be spending. I don't think that's going to stop them.
No, that won't be what happen either. It will literally, Dan is going to cut checks up until the point that he's not owner anymore.
Right. That's it. And that's it. Okay, fine.
So like they're going to take everything on. Like that's what's going to happen. They're going to take everything on. That's the sell of the franchise. And and we'll talk about it more. But the conversation, what you want to know that's happening in the conversation is you don't want Dan to be completely plugged out. That's a worst case scenario.
Correct.
If Dan's completely plugged out, then that means Ron's running roughshod, right? And then Ron can do whatever he wants to do.
That's my fear.
But so that's the thing. Now with new ownership, usually, depending on new ownership, depending on how much money they have, anyone that is with us should have a lot of liquid assets. We'll say, fuck it, we'll pay out anything we need to pay out to get rid of the contracts we don't want, as long as it doesn't affect salary cap, which is what happens when it comes to staffing, right? But you look at like Denver, fuck it, we can clean anyone out. We don't really give a shit, right? We're new ownership. We just know now we're fucked with this Russell Wilson contract. We wish the previous guy didn't fucking saddle us with. That's it. Like that's all you're trying to do is let Ron Rivera avoid doing that shit.
Fair enough.
Anything else is, but like, especially offensively, how many offensive coordinators just got cut in the last 2 weeks? Like,
Byron Leftwich just got let go. Well, did he officially get let go? I didn't check that actually.
I don't know if he officially got it. There was rumors about it all.
There were heavy rumors about it, and then I think I remember Jenna Lane, who's an ESPN reporter, saying nothing's been decided yet. But there's a hot seat minimum. I think it would
be ridiculous if they did that. But
I agree with you.
But this thing is that the bottom line is there's a lot of teams that are looking to rehaul their offenses.
Yes.
And what you can't do is say, hey, fuck it, we're going to wait until new ownership. No, you can't do that. You have to start making these moves now. More importantly, anybody who gets hired now is already starting to get into, we need to evaluate the roster we have right now, and we need to be getting
excellent point. Yeah, you can't suddenly get someone in March with the draft right around the corner.
And then like, well,
not
what is
knowing
this
your
guy
personnel.
like? What is this?
Right. Too many things going on. Wildcard weekend did happen. Pretty interesting set of games. Let's talk about the one we both got wrong. The Chargers jump out to a 27-0 lead. And I was talking to Ridge where your helmet at. And this is before the game even happened. And he, to his credit, absolutely nailed it. I had to agree. The man's always had a great feel for game flow and what's going to happen. He was like, the Chargers are going to get up to a huge lead, and then it's in their DNA to blow it. And they are going to blow it. And the moment it became 27-0, it seemed like there was a lack of urgency from the Chargers, where they were just sort of like, we're just gonna wait till the end of the game. Like, we've already made it. And that just, my goodness, that level of implosion. And good for Duval, good for the Jacksonville Jaguars fans and stuff like that were at the game, didn't leave, continued to like cheer and stuff like that. What an electric atmosphere, K-Dot.
No, it's great. All kudos to Trevor Lawrence for going to Waffle House afterwards. That's a solid move, bro.
That was cool.
Waffle House is the shit. My favorite restaurant in America. Yeah, it was dope to see. But that, like you said, as far as that Chargers game, is that there was never a point in the game in which I was rooting for the Chargers heavy.
Yeah.
That it felt secure. And going into that game with the decision made in week 18 that led to Mike Williams getting hurt, and knowing that Joe Lombardi's offense, I've been on here and I've talked ad nauseum about my issues with the Chargers and that offense. And I don't know how you run routes to get 1.5 yards separation between through guys. And then you have the dude who's probably better, who is better than anybody else on that team on third down when things break down and you have to play a little playground ball, which is when Justin Herbert is at his best. Right. He's gone. I will, without a shout of a doubt, if Mike Williams is playing in that game, the Chargers put it away. I promise you, they put it away. But the part of it is that the reason that offense and the way that they go about that offense is so fucking pedestrian. Yes. In certain things that they do, that unless you have a guy who could just play make, you're not going to get anything. And especially if the defense starts cracking down the way they need to as the game went on. And then it felt very 28-3 Atlanta Falcons. We're not, our foot's not on the accelerator. And even when it is on the accelerator, it doesn't really mean much. Like
yeah, no, I completely agree. Now, a lot of people were calling for Brandon Staley to be fired. What do you think of that?
I understand it, but that goes back to, I'm looking at the 2 weeks combined. If I look at the decisions that led up to Mike Williams getting hurt, and then you have this situation that happens itself, that to me is a colossal fuck up. But if you know the Chargers, which once again, I feel like I kind of know the Chargers, they'd be my team if I'm not a Commanders fan. They're cheap bastards. Well, not necessarily cheap bastards, but they have a way of going about things. They're not willy-nilly, let's fire everybody kind of guys. They never have been that. So the thought process that they're getting rid of, they got rid of Joe Lombardi. You keep Brandon Staley, makes sense for what the Chargers are.
Yeah, I think it ultimately makes sense too. But it's a really bizarre situation where last year Brandon Staley was going for it on fourth down quite frequently. It was literally just look at the number, do it. If it's over, like, whichever one is statistically advantageous is what you do. Then this year, he changed his tune a little bit. Wasn't like still going for it, but like not nearly as much as he was before. He no longer just played pure probabilities. Then you see Joey Bosa slam his helmet down. Brandon Staley rush over to pick it up, give it back to Joey, who then slams it again. Like the whole thing, and then you talk about Mike Williams getting hurt in that final week of a meaningless game. So it feels like even though the Chargers made the playoffs, like I feel like Brandon Staley kind of regressed. Like he sort of lost himself, if that makes sense. Not to say that you fired the guy. There is also an example of Andy Reid with Kansas City. I mean, when they blew that lead against the Indianapolis Colts, people wanted him gone. But that's different, actually. Let me take a step back. That's different because Andy Reid is very well established as one of the best coaches, even at that time. Like Andy Reid is a really good coach. But yeah, the whole Brandon Staley thing was interesting to me. I don't think he should have gotten fired, and it's to me smart that the Chargers have kept him. But he's on the hot seat for sure.
Yeah, look, it once again, and this is not me trying to rehash a fight.
Go ahead.
You remember what I said about young coaches?
Yep, I remember.
Young coaches do dumb shit, and they figure it out, and it takes them a while. Look,
yes.
How old was Andy Reid when he came to Kansas City?
Oh, I don't even know. Did you just look it up? 55. Okay.
Now, when he was in Philly, that motherfucker got told every year he had no idea how to run a clock as far as anything clock management. As a matter of fact, he didn't get that figured out until years into Kansas City. Okay?
That's true. They had that same complaint in Kansas City. That's right.
So it took him a minute to get it figured out. When I look at like Staley and Bosa, the Bosa's are immature assholes. Everyone knows this.
Yes, that is true.
They can play the shit out of football. Everybody wish they had them on their team. Without a doubt. But they are immature assholes. It's just the way that they are, okay? Which is fine. There's a balance there. Every great athlete has a little bit of asshole in them. They're just annoyingly assholes. I still stand firm that most of these dudes, the young guys especially, they might be liked, but few and far between are actually respected or feared. And it leads to undisciplined guys doing dumb shit, and it shows you every once in a while they're not battle hardened.
You can even point at Quay Walker, Matt LaFleur, just to your point.
I'm just Mike McDaniels and some of these guys, like you see it throughout you see all over the league every once in a while, especially with the young guys. They all struggle with time. All of them do. Because that is a learned thing. When people talk about like, well, why don't you just hire a clock manager guy? It ain't that fucking simple. You can't have a dude yelling in your ear to get the play in when you're already trying to get the play in. Like it's just another distraction. The only choice you have is to get better at it. That's the only thing you can do. So but it takes time because you're worried about other kind of things. And in the game flow, it happens. But you look at what blew my mind this weekend of wildcard football. How many shitty burnt timeouts did you see this weekend?
Yes.
And it was mainly young coaches.
Miami, Mike McDaniel comes to mind with Skylar Thompson struggling to get a playoff. It's just like, this looks terrible.
You see, they're just not ready for prime time. Like it happens. Like if you're looking at any young coach that I think had it right to begin with, and once again, I think he is one of the finest coaches that have come through in a very long time, especially after looking at what he was able to do this season. Mike Tomlin, built different. Built completely different than any of the other young guys you see in the league. Mike Tomlin carries himself like a 60-year-old man since he was 22, in the sense of like commanding a locker room, right? Yes. Like he's got that old
feels
black
very
spirit.
Steelers old school, right? Yeah, he
like
fits their identity.
When it went
perfectly.
Bill Cowher to Mike Tomlin, everybody said
perfect.
That tracks, right?
Yeah,
so like
completely.
It made sense. And you see Tomlin, when you hear Tomlin talk about what it means to be a good head coach or what he thinks his job is, you're like, that's a guy that figured it out a long time ago and he's sticking to it. And because of the success that he's had, guess what gets built in? The respect. He has to earn a little less because he's having it, right? When you have a season like that just went down for Pittsburgh, he goes in the next season. If anybody on the team wants to start some shit, they all turn around and say, do you know what Coach Tomlin has done for us? Do you know what Coach Tomlin has done here for this? Shut the fuck up. Yeah. And that's how it works, right?
Even in the case of Tomlin, you talk about respect and not playing Ryan Clark in Denver. I don't know if you remember that story, right?
Yep.
But that is one of the most fascinating decisions from you're in this professional environment. You have a guy that's begging to play. And I remember him saying it. I don't remember on what platform it was, but he said, if you were my son, we're not having this conversation.
Ryan was talking about it when DeMar Hamlin was down. He was speaking about it on ESPN.
Right. But I mean, I'm saying Mike Tomlin has been on a podcast and talked about it too. And you talk about a leader of men, right? And being able to prioritize things accordingly. Mike's brilliant. Mike Tomlin is absolutely brilliant at it. So, and I'm looking at your point and just acknowledging these points here.
Like here's the thing. Would everyone love if you can find a 30-something-year-old Mike Tomlin? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you jump at it.
It's a fucking unicorn, right? It's it's finding Bill Belichick 20, 30 years ago and being like, that's the guy.
Right.
Like it's finding Joe Gibbs when he's a young hot start in San Diego. It's every once in a while you have a unicorn that just shows up and is like, hey, I can be the coach for the next 20 years for you. And but it's so rare. And you know that those are the Hall of Fame coaches that you find. It's just not. I have an issue with people saying that that's the way it should be. It's like, no shit. They just don't exist. And the majority of the time, instead of a Mike Tomlin, what you get are burnt timeouts and helmets being thrown. Like,
right.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and then of course O'Connell loses with Minnesota. But then you on the flip side, you have Brian Daboll win. The Giants look good, man. I mean, they played a very efficient game on offense.
I like every podcast I've ever been on, I have been a Daniel Jones guy from day one.
Yes, you have. You have. And you got to see his best day as a pro.
Vanilla Vic
on the road. Vanilla Vic. He played great. K-Dot, he played great.
There are a few things working in Daniel Jones' favor. Number one, he's got the Eli Manning dumb luck. You run around looking like fucking Forrest Gump.
Yep.
You just and all shucks, things are happening and it's just gonna work out for me. He's got a little bit of that, which is you need some of that. You need a little bit of that.
Sure.
Just Joe Flacco had a little bit of it. It's just dumb things happen that don't make. Tony Romo had a bit of it. It's just these things don't make sense. You don't look athletic enough to do this stuff. This shit don't look right, but it's working. Yeah. Don't question it. Just roll with it. There's also, because he's white and he looks the way he does, there's not a defender that ever looks and says and thinks, even when they're seeing it for themselves, that he's a running threat. You just don't believe it.
So he's taken advantage of years of conditioning to allow him to experience certain levels of success in the run game.
100%.
Love that take. I think you're right.
When he's on an option,
I'm agreeing with you.
When he's on an option, Kayvon Thibodeau looks. Or no, sorry. Anyone
I was like, well, now this is interesting. Now I'm not with you.
I named a defender. I'm sorry. Yeah. Micah Parsons looks and says, he can't do anything. You have an initial.
It's pickup basketball defense in middle school.
You see that dumb
face. You can't
hit
that three. You've seen him hit it over and over again. He can't hit it.
You see that dumb Daniel Jones's face.
You won't.
And you're just like, I'm going to go after Saquon.
You think you have a freeze frame moment as a DN and you just go, I'm going to hit Saquon. Yeah.
That's the football player. This guy, what is this guy? And you go and you make a tackle on Saquon. And what happens? Dan Jones is 20 yards downfield. Fucking
he's fast, man.
His ass off.
He's quick as shit.
I'm a Daniel Jones guy. And here's the thing. It'll never look great. It won't. What you'll have these moments. He went through like 15 touchdowns this year. Like he's not.
Yeah, something very pedestrian.
But he does.
But now you got Saquon calling him elite.
Look, but here's the thing. Eli Manning, he never had great stats. Ever. He never had great stats.
Didn't he finish sub 500 as a starter?
Yeah, somewhere around there. But
he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Like that, he went on 2 miraculous runs. His numbers were always more touchdowns than interceptions. As long as you keep that the way it was, he was there. Do you remember how many years in New York people were like, we need to move on from Eli? We need to move on from Eli.
They would do that all in New York. They just do that shit constantly.
But he was always just the dude. Now I love the combination of them two, and I think Brian Daboll understands what he has in Daniel Jones and is just utilizing it perfectly. I just think that those guys know what they're doing with him. Yeah, Eli had 2 great seasons. 14 and 15, where he threw for 30 touchdowns, more than 30 touchdowns. But beyond that, like,
and that's it.
His other he had 31 touchdowns in 2010. 25 picks went with it.
Jeez.
Then in 2013, he threw 18 touchdowns and 27 picks. And then followed up with back-to-back 30 touchdown seasons.
That guy just made no sense.
But through the first, up until he gets the first Super Bowl, the most he ever threw in a season was 24.
I have a question. Did you ever, this is going to maybe sound really weird because now we're talking about a future Hall of Famer. Did you ever fear Eli Manning?
Yes.
For some reason, I didn't. And it's the Daniel Jones thing that you're talking about. Yes. I'm the D end. And I'm not concerned.
I see through it.
And over. Good for you. Because I couldn't. I was like, it's
dumb luck. I see it doesn't matter how good you are. God's on this man's side. That's the thing you realize sometimes.
Hey, do you think that's real, by the way? Just that general concept? God is on his or her side?
No, I think God's make believe, but the concept is luck or whatever's working in your.
That's how you're defining. Okay.
I believe in the football gods more than I believe in Bible God. Let's put it that way. The football gods are with this guy.
Oh, you've seen miracles on the field. Certainly.
When you see the David Tyree helmet catch, you realize there are forces outside of whatever you're doing, scheming otherwise. When you saw him get out of that sack to make that throw,
for both those things to happen on the same play is absurd.
This is stuff beyond your comprehension. He's got luck around him.
Yeah.
Anything can happen with this dude. So no matter how much I always looked, it said, yeah, I got more talented guys than him. I trust my cornerbacks more than I trust him. I trust this more than I trust him.
How much of luck do you think it comes down to manifestation?
I think a lot of it, that's the thing, is that availability.
Yeah, certainly.
Which is huge. And he didn't miss games.
Mm-hmm.
And a willingness and desire to have a certain mentality of going with the flow, not compounding your mistakes. Just go with the flow. And sometimes the flow is shit, as you can see in some of his stat lines.
Yeah.
But if you do those two things, you start realizing more than anything else, the universe kind of takes care of itself. And you will manifest good. There are always possibilities of all kinds of things happening, right? But if you continue to make yourself available and have the right mentality of it,
right,
then yet you allow yourself to open up those opportunities of luck happening for you, which Eli had 2 seasons where defenses struck at the right time. He made just enough plays in the right by being available and doing and having that mentality and taking what he saw happening on the field. He's got 2 Lombardi trophies.
I just had a super random thought that if the New York Giants, who do have a good defensive line already, but if they had our defensive line, like with Saquon and Daniel Jones playing efficiently and stuff like that, I think it looks significantly different. Maybe I'm just being too biased with our defensive line, but I think the Giants are like a totally different.
Our defensive line, period, on anybody's
one of the
team,
best.
Like, yeah, there's 2 defensive lines maybe you can name that are purely better than us.
There's San Francisco.
That's the only one I can really say purely. I want to be kind about it.
I don't think there are any others.
There are individual guys that might take over.
What made me think of that is just the defensive lines that the Giants would have, right? That's what it was both years, was they had this brilliant defensive line to go with
every year.
The dumb luck of Manning. And
which is why when people, this is why, look, I've been on record as far as what I think Washington should do on quarterback, at least what direction they should go in. But there's not, I know it's not the right decision, but anytime everybody kept talking about Daniel Jones to Washington, I got excited. Once again, I like this dude. No.
I just caught myself doing it again. That's all I'm saying. Is like I caught myself going, but he's not that good. But it happens every time, and then he can have a game like that.
That's my point. And it's like, look, as much as Eli might have had an up and down career when it comes to stats, right? What wouldn't I do for his 2 Super Bowls?
Right. Do you think that maybe this guy's just a more advanced Taylor Heineke?
Taylor's a different energy.
Yeah, but his also results in some wins and spots.
Taylor's a different energy. No, that's a totally different energy. It's not the same thing. Taylor's not Romo. He's Favre. Taylor does not go with the flow of anything.
He goes at his flow, my friend.
Taylor is the dude out there.
A wonderful flow.
Taylor's out in the water trying with a shovel, trying to create his own tributary. And his tools
He's Shane Falco, and he knows.
Right. He is trying to carve out his own thing in this, where everyone around him, the football gods included, are saying stop. And he's saying, fuck everybody. I'm gonna keep at it.
And he manifested a career out of it.
Bingo. But once again, Favre, 1 Super Bowl. Eli Manning, 2 Super Bowls.
What if Taylor goes to the Jets and wins a Super Bowl?
Be hilarious. And that's not what I want to see. I want to see Carson Wentz do that.
Oh, his next destination, he actually just lights it up.
I
know you do. I know you do.
Just because of all the. I want it so goddamn bad.
Because until that happens,
No, it's
Those
over.
episodes just look really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, no shit. But no, the Taylor could. What Taylor is a run guy. He's the Nick Foles that shows up and takes you on a run.
You want to get him hot at the right time.
Right.
That's what you're looking for.
He's what Brock Purdy's doing in San Francisco right now. It's not in the best case to me. What he's not is the guy you acquire in the offseason and you guys go on a Super Bowl run from the get-go. Right. I don't see that. I just don't see that with Taylor. Because once again, when you're not going with the flow of things, when you're trying to create your own thing, you burn yourself out.
I have a question. How many missed extra points do you need to see in a row until you decide not to kick?
2, depending on the weather.
No matter but let's say the other team hasn't even scored at all.
Yeah, I'm done after 2.
Yeah, I am too. I'm shocked they continued trotting Maher out for those. And it was hilarious.
Were you watching the Manning cast or the regular broadcast?
I ended up seeing the clips of the Manning cast for missed extra points 3 and 4. Peyton was trying to be professional, but Peyton was going to kill Brett Maher. Because Eli was like, oh, wow. He's doing the Eli Manning thing. But Peyton legitimately looked like Brett Maher had just slapped his dick on the football gods and was disrespecting them in front of everybody. And Peyton has so much respect for the game. Right. He has so much respect for the game that you could see. And he goes, this man is blatantly disrespecting it and ruining our product. Like it's his baby. He looks so pissed off with Brett.
He was pissed off with Brett, but he was more pissed off that they kept kicking.
Right.
Why are you subjecting us to this?
The fourth one in particular, did you see him pick up the football, Peyton?
Yeah.
And literally was
just wanted to fucking watch it.
Yeah.
No, I stopped kicking it.
You have to. Yeah. You have to. So now the question is, does this psychologically carry over to San Francisco? Or is it a new game? Don't worry about it.
Like at the end of the last episode when we made the predictions,
1 of 5.
The only thing that I know is that I'm going to get some of these wrong.
Yeah, that's all we ever know.
For sure.
That's all we ever know.
The Cowboys played at a level at which I didn't think was possible for them.
They played a near perfect game.
They did. Tampa Bay did not look good. I will say, I don't know if I'm the only one on the planet. I did shoot a text off after they recovered the onside kick. I was like, no, right? I was like, this time, no, right? I did think there was a part of me that thought it's an impossibility, but I'm about to witness history. I thought that, and I was like, holy shit. I also went through last week and I said that there's a pattern that if you look at the Cowboys and their wins and losses, right now they're supposed to win 4 in a row if you follow the pattern of what they've done, and that wouldn't mean a Super Bowl. We know what their defense is. We know what Micah Parsons is in particular, which is he's the key.
Yes.
If he can still play at the clip that he's playing at and get after these quarterbacks, which is, once again, going to be hard with him. They're probably just not going to line him up against Trent all that much, which is, if that's the case, they get moved around and all kinds of stuff. There's no telling what he can do against a rookie quarterback.
As a heads up, I got a hard stop in 5 minutes here.
Yeah, no worries. If Dak Prescott plays the way he just did in that Tampa Bay game, they could win this whole thing.
They could beat anybody. They could.
I still am of the idea the Cowboys going to cowboy.
Dude, it's so fucking annoying, though, seeing 3 different NFC East teams in the divisional round right now.
It doesn't annoy me as much.
It annoys me so much.
It does
so much.
Because somebody was saying
we've played each of these teams. We've beaten 2 of them, and we tied 1, and we really should have beaten that team twice.
Yep.
It is. I think that's where the frustration comes from. Is we could hang with these teams, and so that's what's frustrating to me.
The only thing that gets me is that I look around the NFC East quarterback and say we weren't getting anywhere near as much as they're getting out of the quarterback position, and that alone makes me say I don't see a team right now that was playing in the playoffs that if I'm looking at what we would be able to do offensively, that says that I had faith that we were going to be able to do anything really, unless
probably just the NFC side you're talking about, right? Because you have the whole Skyler.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Well, Huntley would probably beat us. So just Skyler. Yeah,
I don't see it working out. So and at the end of the day, you cannot take the sunshine away from me that Dan Snyder's leaving. It just doesn't work.
I know. I can't wait to rock these shades when he finally sells the team.
I might be naked on here.
But still wear the shades.
Maybe.
Yeah, naked with shades.
I'll just be lathered up.
We can do that. Oh,
Baby oil.
I think you should be. How often
Sure.
are you going to get the opportunity to do that?
This would be a very inappropriate video. I'm going to be jerking it right on this table.
Yeah, we already say no, not for kids on our podcast, so it's already fine.
If you're ready for hearing those sounds of me just jacking it right into the table.
Yeah, please hit us up on the comment mailbag as to your thoughts on that situation.
Just get this thing down like this.
Said I had a hard
ASMR
stop
action.
in 5 minutes. Maybe I should cut it now. Did you actually put the microphone down there?
I just point it down. It'll get directional.
That's not your microphone. See how good it really is.
Yeah.
All right, Kate, I'll give you a topic. 2 minutes. We'll do a 2-minute drill here.
What's the dumbest heist you ever seen in a movie?
The dumbest heist I've ever seen in a movie? I don't know. So clearly one came to mind for you.
Yeah, I watched the movie Ambulance on Saturday.
And how was it?
Fun.
You were excited for it.
I am. I like Michael Bay.
Yeah. And
Michael Bay is if a 14-year-old had studio money, what would happen? It is the most dumb fucking idea I've ever heard of a bank robbery. All the guys deserve to die. And but I had a lot of fun with it.
I was gonna say you loved it, didn't you?
But as soon as it was over, I looked at my girlfriend and I was high as a kite and just making fun of the movie the entire way through.
Yeah.
And we would pause to talk about the logic or the lack of logic that was happening. And then I had to watch the first 30 minutes of Heat to cleanse my palate.
My God.
That was good.
that bad. It was fun though.
It's fun. It's Michael Bay.
It's Michael Bay, like you said, a 14-year-old with studio money.
Yep. Who's caring less about plot. And you could clearly see he has some drones. So he just wanted to show off what he could do with drones.
Oh, he should think about transitioning to Bollywood in that case. We got a lot of those kinds of guys.
He's making hundreds of millions of dollars here doing straight to Netflix shit.
Oh no, I get that, but just in terms of pure enjoyment, I think we fit right in.
Now you need a place that has American
he
flags.
He could do both. He could do American flags there.
He's got to do a slow motion Americana shot that he does in every one of his movies. It's a young black kid and a white kid in a sepia tone fucking thing going down a street together eating ice cream or some shit to show that America's great. He has to have that in every movie. It's his sensibilities. I don't think any country should want Michael Bay because of how problematic he probably will be there.
That's true. I did sort of just thrust him. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. You're right. That was irresponsible.
That'd be rough on the populations of those people, of those countries. No, right. You need Michael Bay here doing crazy shit. Even though Six Underground was Europe, it didn't feel like Europe, but he did some Europe shit. And that was fucking nuts.
What would you say is the most iconic Michael Bay scene? Just to wrap up the pod here.
Okay, most iconic to me is in the movie The Rock with Sean Connery and Nick Cage, and it's you can clearly see that he's got a I'm sorry, I can't even get it out.
No, I'm really glad I asked this question. Go ahead.
Look, the whole movie's
You're like
fucking
a 5-year-old just giggling. Yeah, that's
great. The whole movie's fucking crazy. The chase scene in San Francisco with the Humvee, a trolley, and the fucking and the Ferrari. Yeah, the Hummer and the trolley. Yeah, it was fucking nuts. But the line of John Mason, winners go home and fuck the prom queen, is my favorite. It's so fucking. I hear. Where's the line? I want to. Your best losers always want about their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. And Nick Cage turning to him. But Carla was the prom queen. Was the fucking shit. I love Michael Bay because he is the absolute incarnate of what we would all do if a studio gave us $100 million and we were a teenager and said, go make a movie. And it's amazing. And you
feel
guys
he
like
represents you.
He represents all of us, our childhoods. It's when we grew up in the generations we grew up in watching action movies the way that we
All
watch
right, I'm gonna
them,
have to watch some Michael Bay movies as well in that
you
case.
he's just turn your fucking brain off and enjoy the spectacle of shit.
That's my kind of flick. That's my kind of flick.
Have you seen The Rock?
I haven't seen The Rock.
Oh
so
my
you describing it was very funny.
You have to see The Rock.
I'll see The Rock.
Yo, dude, your 90s action movies, man. Have you seen Face Off?
No, I told you
John
know this.
Woo?
You know this
Face
about
Off?
me. I haven't seen movies.
I took his face. Oh. Oh.
You were
Dude.
wait, hold on. The Rock, Michael Bay. There we go. 96. Yeah, Sean Connery. Oh, Ed Harris is in it also.
Dude, the cast is sick.
I'll have to find a way to watch this.
Oh, The Rock is the shit. I don't know, bro.
All right. Well, this is beyond my heart stuff. We got to go. Thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. Watch The Rock that Michael Bay directed.
Of course.
Have to.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.